My name is Jae-min, and the first time the Hunter Association tested my awakened ability, the examiner stared at the screen for 12 full seconds before asking if the machine was broken. I was hoping for something cool, lightning, gravity, dragon blood, maybe a sword aura so violent that nearby furniture developed anxiety. Instead, the crystal displayed one line, SSS-Rank REGENERATION. For half a second, the entire testing hall went silent. Then everybody exploded. Not because they were impressed, because directly under my skill rank, my combat score appeared. Attack, F. Strength, F. Agility, E. Mana output, F. The examiner blinked at me and said, "Congratulations, you are the strongest hospital patient in Korea." That was the day I learned the Hunter world respected exactly two things: damage numbers and people who could make damage numbers bigger. Nobody cared that my regeneration was SSS rank, because I could not shoot fireballs, split buildings, or punch an ogre into next Thursday. As far as the guild recruiters were concerned, my glorious legendary ability meant I could get beaten up longer than the average idiot. One recruiter from the Iron Crown Guild actually slapped my shoulder and told me I had excellent disposable tank potential. Disposable. I stared at him and thought, brother, if I am disposable, why do I keep coming back? Still, rent existed. Instant noodles were becoming a food group, and my landlord had developed the supernatural ability to appear outside my door exactly when I was pretending not to be home. So I signed with a trash-tier guild called Blue Ember as an F-rank porter. My first gate was supposed to be easy. A green dungeon, goblins, slimes, maybe one mutant rat if the universe was feeling disrespectful. 5 minutes after entering, the dungeon mutated. The exit vanished. The walls turned black. The goblins grew armor. A skull icon appeared over the corridor. Everyone started screaming about a hidden boss. I was carrying 6 backpacks, 3 crates of potions, a folding grill, and somebody's lucky rice cooker. Our guild leader pointed at me. Jae-min, hold the corridor. I looked behind me. There was nobody else. He meant me. I asked what I was supposed to hold it with. He handed me a broken shield. That bastard gave me half a trash can lid and called it a strategy. Then the guild ran. A horned goblin the size of a vending machine came around the corner carrying an axe wider than my future. I raised the shield. The axe came down. Everything below my elbow disappeared. I remember looking at the stump and thinking I should probably be upset. Then my hand grew back. Not slowly. Not after a potion. It just came back. Bone shot out first. White and clean. Tendons wrapped around it. Muscle formed. Skin sealed over everything. My fingers twitched. The goblin froze. I froze. We both looked at my new hand. Then I said, okay, that is deeply messed up. The goblin screamed and swung again. This time it split my shoulder open to the ribs. The wound closed before the axe finished scraping across the floor. That was when something inside my head clicked. All the association tests had measured how fast I healed from cuts and burns. Nobody had been psychotic enough to check what happened if I lost an organ. Nobody tested whether I could recover from total structural damage, because apparently medical ethics were a thing. The hidden boss did not care about medical ethics, so I let it keep hitting me. Not because I had a death wish, because every attack taught me something. Arm removed. 3 seconds. Shoulder crushed. 2 seconds. Ribs powdered. Instant. Axe through the stomach. The goblin had enough time to smile before my abdominal muscles squeezed the weapon so tightly it could not pull it free. That was new. I grabbed the axe handle with both hands and headbutted the goblin. My forehead cracked. Its nose cracked harder. I did it again, and again, and again. By the 6th headbutt, my skull was repairing itself faster than the fractures could spread. The goblin, unfortunately for him, had the standard 1-skull subscription plan. He collapsed. I stood over him, covered in blood, carrying a rice cooker on my back like some deranged domestic war god. And that was the moment I realized my ability had been classified completely wrong. Regeneration was not defense. Regeneration was permission. Permission to do every stupid, suicidal, body-destroying thing that normal hunters could never survive. So naturally, I became an absolute menace. The guild returned 20 minutes later expecting to find my corpse. Instead, they found me dragging the horned goblin by one leg. The leader stared at the dead monster, then at me, then at the blood soaking my clothes. "Did you kill that?" "No," I said. It had a sudden disagreement with my forehead. Nobody laughed. I laughed enough for all of us. Back in the city, I spent my entire dungeon pay renting a private training room for one night. Normal hunters trained by doing controlled repetitions, resting, eating supplements, and letting their muscles recover. I had a different plan. I loaded a barbell until the rack bent. Then I squatted until both thighs tore. The muscles regenerated. So I kept going. At first, I could barely lift 200 kilograms. By midnight, I was lifting 300. By 2 in the morning, I hit 400. At 4, my spine compressed badly enough that I got 2 centimeters shorter for about half a second. Then my vertebrae snapped back into place and I kept lifting. A security guard watched through the glass for 10 minutes, quietly removed his headset, and walked away like he had witnessed something the company handbook was not prepared to discuss. By sunrise, my strength stat had jumped from F to D. I stared at the window. One night, 2 entire ranks. Most hunters needed months to get that kind of improvement. My body had one unfair advantage. Recovery time had been deleted from my schedule, so I started training 6 days per day. Yes, 6 days per day. I counted every 4-hour block as a separate training day, because sleep had become optional. If exhaustion damaged my brain chemistry, my ability repaired it. If tendons tore, they rebuilt. If my hands blistered, fresh skin appeared underneath before the old skin finished peeling. I ran until my feet fractured. I punched steel until my knuckles turned into soup. I practiced sword swings until my shoulders dislocated, then kept swinging while they snapped back into place. The gym banned me after I broke 3 machines, 2 floor tiles, and 1 personal trainer's understanding of God. So I moved into dungeons. I discovered poison slimes were perfect cardio partners. Their venom caused paralysis, organ shutdown, and violent hallucinations. For normal hunters, that was terrible. For me, it was spicy pre-workout with attempted murder. I let them poison me, sprinted laps while my liver died and regenerated, then punched them until they dissolved. At one point, I drank a vial of concentrated basilisk toxin because I wanted to see if my resistance would improve. My tongue went numb. My heart stopped twice, and I saw my dead grandmother telling me I was an idiot. She was correct. But 3 hours later, the toxin barely affected me. I had discovered the second hidden advantage. My regeneration did not make me immune to damage. It let me adapt to damage because I could survive enough exposure to train against it. Heat, cold, poison, pressure, pain. I started collecting resistances like a broke kid collecting free samples at a supermarket. A month passed. My official hunter rank was still F. My actual stats were getting disgusting. Strength, B. Agility, B. Endurance, S. Pain resistance, A. Poison resistance, A. Regeneration, still SS. The only reason nobody noticed was because I kept hiding my progress. I had seen enough guild politics to understand that if people discovered an F rank nobody had grown this fast, I would stop being a person and start becoming valuable research material. I preferred having all my organs inside my body, even if that arrangement was technically temporary. Then Blue Ember sold me. Not literally. Legally, they called it temporary raid support. Functionally, they rented me to the Crimson Wolf Guild as a disposable body for a Red Gate expedition. Crimson Wolf was an elite guild. Their lowest combat member was B rank. Their vice captain was an S rank swordsman named Kwon Tae-sik, a famous hunter with silver hair, expensive armor, and the personality of a knife left in a public bathroom. He looked at my badge. F rank? Technically. What does that mean? It means the badge says F. He stared at me like he wanted to deduct oxygen from my paycheck. Their healer laughed. Their mage asked why they had brought me. The raid manager said, "Emergency aggro support." There it was again. Fancy words for human bait. The Red Gate opened into a ruined desert city. The sky was black. Sandstorms carried sparks. Giant stone soldiers patrolled streets buried beneath dunes. Our target was an ancient vault beneath the central palace. The first 2 hours went smoothly because Crimson Wolf was strong. Then we reached the palace, and someone betrayed us. I noticed it first because the floor under my feet clicked. The raid manager smiled. Every ceiling rune in the chamber lit up. Mana chains erupted from the walls and wrapped around the Crimson Wolf elites. Tae-sik cut through 3 before a second formation slammed him to his knees. The raid manager stepped away from the group. He was not a manager. He was a member of a criminal guild called Black Vein. 20 masked hunters dropped from the balconies. Their leader wore red armor and carried a narrow black sword. I knew his face from the wanted posters. Baek Do-hwan, S-rank assassin. The man had killed 11 licensed hunters and once escaped an association prison by murdering the transport squad with a plastic spoon. He walked straight toward Tae-sik. Crimson Wolf's vice captain struggled against the chains. Do-hwan smiled. "Hand over the vault key, and I might let your healers live." Tae-sik spat blood at his boots. Bold choice. Terrible customer service. Do-hwan raised his sword. I stepped between them. He looked genuinely confused. I was wearing cheap leather armor and carrying a basic iron spear from the guild supply cart. My badge said F. He actually laughed. "Move." "No. Do you know who I am?" "Yeah. Spoon guy." The chamber went silent. Apparently internationally wanted assassins are sensitive about utensil-based achievements. Do-hwan's smile disappeared. I saw the sword move. I did not see him move. 1 second he was 3 meters away. The next, the black blade went straight through my chest and burst out between my shoulder blades. Everyone froze. The healer screamed. Tae-sik shouted that my heart had been pierced. Do-hwan leaned close enough that I could smell mint on his breath. "You should have moved." I looked down at the sword inside me. Then I grabbed the blade with my bare hand. Do-hwan frowned. I pulled it sideways. Metal scraped across ribs. My palm split to the bone. The sword tore out of my chest with a wet sound that made 3 people gag. Then the hole closed. Muscle knitted together. Skin sealed. Even the blood stopped. I wiped my chest with one hand. Du-hwan took 1 step back. I smiled. You should have stabbed harder. His face changed. Not fear yet. Just the first tiny crack in the certainty of a man who had spent his entire life believing people stayed dead when he killed them. Then I looked at the blood on his sword and added, also, congratulations. You just gave my heart a speed run. My cardiologist is going to lose his damn mind. Du-hwan attacked again. This time I was ready. Not fast enough to dodge. I did not need to be. His sword cut through my neck. So I trapped it there. I flexed every muscle around the blade and grabbed his wrist. His eyes widened. That was the problem with perfect technique. Perfect technique assumes the other guy has basic respect for anatomy. I did not. I yanked him forward and drove my forehead into his face. The old reliable. His nose exploded. He jumped back, ripping the sword free. My neck closed instantly. His nose did not. Now there was fear. And once an S-rank assassin is afraid of an F-rank porter, the whole social hierarchy gets weird very quickly. Du-hwan stopped smiling. He flicked blood from his blade and shifted into a lower stance. The air changed. Even chained to the floor, Tae-sik shouted at me to run. I appreciated the concern, but there were 2 problems. First, the exit was sealed. Second, I had spent the last month specifically training for situations normal people would describe as, please do not do this under any circumstances. Du-hwan vanished. Pain erupted across my body. 10 sword cuts appeared at once. My thigh opened. My cheek split. 2 fingers left the group chat. Something sharp passed through one lung. Then the wounds closed. Du-hwan vanished again. 20 cuts. I healed. 30. I healed. He started moving faster, clearly offended by the concept of me continuing to exist. I could not track him with my eyes, so I stopped trying. Instead, I listened. Boot on stone. Air moving behind my ear. The tiny whistle of a sword changing direction. He stabbed through my kidney. I twisted into it. That sounds stupid because it was stupid. But the blade entered my body. And for 1 fraction of a second, his weapon became connected to me. I clamped both arms around his sword arm and dropped my entire weight. His momentum carried us into the floor. My shoulders shattered. His elbow bent backward. There was a pop. Du-hwan hissed. I laughed in his face. Welcome to my fighting style. It is called catastrophic insurance fraud. Then I bit his sword. Not because teeth are good weapons against metal. Mine broke instantly. But while he stared at me like I had just crawled out of a sewer wearing his mother's wedding dress, my teeth regrew, and I bit again. The second bite was stronger. The third cracked the blade coating. He kicked me across the room. I hit a pillar hard enough to fold around it. My spine snapped in 4 places. I slid down smiling. That smile was not confidence. My face had temporarily regenerated wrong around the broken jaw. Still looked terrifying. I used it. Du-hwan hesitated. That was enough time for Tae-sik to break 1 mana chain. The S-rank swordsman roared, cut through the remaining restraints, and went after the assassins. The entire chamber became chaos. Crimson Wolf's mage blew a balcony apart. The healer started removing curses. Black Vein assassins dropped smoke bombs. Someone launched a fire spell that set a tapestry, 2 corpses, and the fake raid manager's pants on fire. I went straight for Du-hwan. He was still faster than me. Much faster, but speed stops being as impressive when the target is willing to use his ribcage as a bear trap. He stabbed my abdomen. I closed both hands over his. Then I regenerated around the blade, the wound sealed with the sword still inside. Du-hwan pulled. Nothing. He pulled harder. I punched him. My fist broke against his jaw. Then it healed. I punched him again and again. Each strike damaged my arm almost as much as his face, but my arm got a refund. His face did not. On the 7th punch, his cheekbone cracked. On the 10th, he released the sword and jumped back. I looked down. There was an S-rank assassin's weapon sticking out of my stomach. So I used it. I had never learned his sword style. I did not need to. I grabbed the hilt and swung like I was trying to murder a particularly offensive watermelon. Du-hwan dodged. I cut through a pillar. That surprised everybody, including me. The sword was absurdly sharp. I swung again. Du-hwan moved around me, furious now. You have no technique. Correct. You are holding it wrong. Also correct. You are an embarrassment to swordsmanship. I swung at his head. He ducked, still making you dodge though. That made him angrier than anything else. He drew a hidden knife and activated a black aura around it. The temperature dropped. Tae-sik shouted, "That skill destroys regeneration. Get away from him." Interesting. Finally, a bad review. Du-hwan drove the knife into my shoulder. Black veins spread across my skin. My regeneration slowed. For the first time in weeks, a wound stayed open longer than a second. Du-han smiled again. There, even monsters have limits. He shoved the knife deeper. I looked at the black veins, then at him. Then I remembered 3 days earlier, when I had trained poison resistance by sitting inside a nest of acid centipedes until the dungeon supervisor threatened to call the police. My regeneration adapted to hostile substances. Maybe cursed energy counted. So instead of pulling the knife out, I pushed it farther in. Du-han blinked. I grabbed his wrist and buried the weapon all the way to the handle. Pain exploded through me. My skill fought the curse. The curse ate my cells. New cells replaced them. The curse ate those too. My mana consumption spiked. For 10 seconds, it felt like someone had filled my shoulder with burning glass. Then a notification appeared. Curse resistance acquired. Du-han saw the black veins receding. His mouth opened. I grinned. This is why nobody invites me to buffets. Then I ripped the knife out, snapped it between my hands, and punched him so hard his expensive S-rank ass bounced twice. He escaped. I wish I could say I defeated him there, but Du-han was not stupid enough to keep fighting after reality started bullying him personally. He detonated the chamber floor. The vault collapsed. Stone swallowed everything. I fell through 3 levels of ancient ruins and landed in a buried temple with half the palace on top of me. For a while, there was darkness. Then my crushed eyes regenerated. Still darkness. Great. I tried to move. Could not. My legs were under several tons of stone. My chest kept repairing itself, only to get compressed again. Crack. Heal. Crack. Heal. It was like being trapped inside the world's worst massage chair. I could have waited for rescue. That sounded boring. So I started pushing. Every time my muscles tore, they regenerated stronger. Every time my bones fractured under the load, they repaired. I pushed for 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour. The stone moved 1 centimeter. My strength stat increased, so I kept going. The ruins became my gym. By the time I crawled out, 3 hours had passed and my strength had reached A rank. I emerged through a mountain of debris like a blood-covered mole, with unresolved anger issues. Tae-sik and the surviving Crimson Wolf members were outside searching for me. The healer dropped her staff. Tae-sik looked at the crater, then at me. You were under there? Mostly. You should be dead. I hear that a lot. He stared at me for another second, then bowed. An S-rank hunter bowed to an F-rank porter. Everyone nearby went silent. You saved us, he said. I scratched dried blood from my ear. Technically, I annoyed the assassin until you saved yourselves. Tae-sik did not laugh. Apparently, elite hunters had a national shortage of humor. But after that raid, the secret was gone. Crimson Wolf submitted an official report. Black Vein had attacked. Baek Do-han had escaped, and an F-rank porter had survived direct combat with him. The association summoned me the next morning. They put me in a white room with 6 officials, 3 scanners, and a doctor who kept looking at me like she wanted to know whether I qualified as a human being for tax purposes. They retested my ability. Cut on the arm. Instant healing. Deep cut. Instant. Broken finger. The doctor asked permission first. I said sure. She broke it. It healed before she let go. Then the chief examiner asked the question everyone had been avoiding. How extensive is your regeneration? I thought about the goblin axe, the poison, the sword through my heart, the palace sitting on my spine. Pretty extensive. He frowned. Could you be more specific? I pointed to the paper cutter on his desk. He went pale. No. What? Whatever you are thinking, no. I had not even said anything. Rude. They eventually classified me as a special defense type hunter and raised my official combat rank to B pending further evaluation. That sounded good until I read the contract proposals waiting outside. Every major guild wanted me. Iron Crown offered money. Crimson Wolf offered equipment. Golden Lion offered an apartment, a car, and something called a Premium Recovery Exploitation Program, which sounded exactly like slavery with a wellness brochure. Then a government research department offered me $70,000 to temporarily donate 1 regenerating limb. I read that sentence 4 times. Temporarily donate a limb. Human resources had finally become literal. I declined everything. Instead, I quit Blue Ember. My guild leader tried to charge an early termination penalty. I reminded him that he had abandoned me in a mutated dungeon with half a shield. He said that was standard operational procedure. I picked up his mahogany desk with 1 hand. He waived the fee. I became an independent hunter. That should have made life simpler. It did not. 2 days later, someone broke into my apartment. I knew because the lock was intact. The window was closed, and there was a masked woman sitting at my kitchen table eating my noodles. I pointed at the bowl. Those were my last spicy beef noodles. She looked at me over the steam. You are Han Jae-min. You are eating stolen property. My name is Yoon Mira. She removed the mask. I recognized her immediately. A-rank scout, former association tracker. Famous for locating hidden gates and fugitives. Also apparently famous for being a noodle-thieving goblin. She slid a photograph across the table. Baek Do-han stood beside a stone door covered in ancient symbols. The Black Vein Guild is looking for something called the Heart Gate, she said. Your Red Gate raid was not random. The vault contained a map. I sat down. Why tell me? Because Duhwan asked specifically about you after he escaped. I made a friend. He put a bounty on your body. How much? Alive, 3 million. Dead, 500,000. I frowned. That is insulting. Mira stared. You are upset about the pricing? I am worth 6 times more with organs. That feels objectifying. She pushed the empty noodle bowl away. Duhwan believes your regeneration is connected to the heart gate. That got my attention. My ability had awakened 6 months earlier during a city-wide gate surge. I had never questioned why I received SSS-Rank REGENERAtion. Awakening was random. At least, everyone said it was. Mira did not believe in random. She showed me the vault map. 3 ancient gates formed a triangle around Seoul. Each had appeared during historic mana disasters. The center point was under the city, and in the margins of the map was a symbol identical to the one that flashed behind my status window whenever I regenerated from fatal damage. A circle split by 3 claw-like lines. I had never told anyone about it. Mira watched my face. You recognize it? No. You are a terrible liar. I regenerate honesty damage too. She leaned forward. The first heart gate may open in 4 days. What happens if Black Vein gets there first? We do not know. I hated that answer. Whenever mysterious ancient ruins come with the sentence, we do not know, the next sentence usually involves a casualty count. So I agreed to help her. But first, I needed more power. Duhwan had escaped because I could survive him. But surviving was not winning. My attack speed was too slow. My technique was garbage. My strongest martial art was weaponized self-harm. I needed to turn regeneration into offense. So Mira took me to someone insane enough to teach me. Master O lived underneath an abandoned bathhouse and ran an illegal training facility called the Furnace. There were no treadmills. There were no yoga mats. There was a steel room containing a chained troll that looked like it had been fed motorcycles since birth. Master O was 72 years old, blind in one eye, and built like a refrigerator that had learned martial arts. He listened to my explanation and asked one question. How fast do you heal? Very. He punched me in the liver. I hit the wall. My liver regenerated. He nodded. Good. Again. For 3 days, that old demon beat the educational system directly into my skeleton. He taught me that normal fighters protect joints, control breathing, preserve balance, and avoid destroying their own body during attacks. I could cheat. A normal punch stops accelerating before the shoulder tears apart. Mine did not have to. A normal kick protects the knee. Mine could let the knee dislocate at the final instant, adding extra reach and rotational force, then regenerate before I landed. A normal fighter cannot contract every muscle hard enough to rip fibers from bone. I could. Master O called it redline combat. I called it turning my warranty into a weapon. He hated that name. The training was horrifying. He made me punch tungsten plates until the plates dented. He made me sprint while dragging a truck. He dropped a boulder on me and told me to stand up with conviction. At one point he tied my arms behind my back and released the troll. I asked what lesson that was supposed to teach. He said, footwork. Then the troll punted me through a wall. I woke up upside down in a vending machine with a canned coffee embedded in my thigh. That old man called it pedagogy. I called it getting my ass tenderized by Shrek's unemployed cousin. But it worked. My body learned faster than it should have, because every failed movement became recoverable data. I could practice a dangerous technique 10,000 times in a day. Other fighters stopped when their joints hurt. I stopped when the building needed repairs. By the 3rd night, my strength reached S rank for short bursts. My agility climbed to A, and I developed my first original technique. I named it Burst Step. The idea was simple. I overloaded every muscle in both legs at once. Calves tore, tendons strained, knees partially dislocated. In return, I accelerated so violently that the floor cracked under my feet. For half a second I could move at S-rank speed. Then my legs became abstract art. Fortunately, abstract art healed. Mira came to pick me up on the 4th day. She opened the training room door just as I attempted burst step into a flying knee. I crossed 20 meters instantly, missed the dummy, and entered the concrete wall like a decorative feature. Only my legs were sticking out. Mira stared. Should I help? My voice came muffled through concrete. No, I am establishing dominance. Against the wall, it knows what it did. The heart gate opened that night. Not beneath Seoul, above it. At 11:47 p.m., every phone in the city screamed with an emergency alert. The sky split over the Han River. A red circle appeared in the clouds, 3 kilometers wide. Stone stairs descended from nothing, hanging over the city like a staircase built by a god with terrible zoning permissions. Monsters began falling from the opening. Not goblins, not orcs, knights, thousands of them. Black armor, empty helmets, red light burning inside their chests. The first one landed on a bridge and cut a bus in half. The association mobilized every available hunter. Mira and I raced toward the river on her motorcycle. I asked if she had a helmet for me. She said, You regenerate. That was the exact moment I realized immortal people receive terrible customer service. We reached the bridge during evacuation. Hunters were fighting everywhere. A rank fire mage roasted 3 knights. An A-rank tank got launched through a toll booth. Police drones screamed evacuation routes overhead. Then something enormous stepped out of the red gate. A knight in bone-white armor descended the floating stairs. He carried a spear twice my height. Every hunter scanner nearby immediately flashed S-rank threat. The thing looked down at the city, then directly at me. The red light inside its helmet narrowed. It spoke one word, vessel. I pointed at myself. Me? The knight jumped. It crossed half a kilometer in one leap. Mira yelled. I used burst step. The world blurred. The spear hit where I had been and deleted a section of bridge, not cracked. Deleted. Cars, concrete, railing, gone. I landed behind the knight with both legs already healing. Master O had told me redline combat required precision, so naturally, I kicked the knight in the spine with enough force to dislocate my hip and rupture my own femoral artery. The armor dented. The knight moved 1 step. I fell over because my leg was facing a direction not approved by biology. It rotated toward me. I regenerated, stood up, and said, okay. Tough crowd. The knight drove its spear through my stomach and lifted me off the ground. There I was, dangling 10 feet in the air, impaled like the world's least appetizing kebab. Then I noticed something. The spear was draining mana through the wound. My regeneration surged to replace what it destroyed. The spear pulled harder. My ability pushed back. Energy flowed both directions. The symbol behind my status window appeared. Circle. 3 claws. The knight froze. Confirmed, it said. Confirmed what? The undying core. That sounded important. Also terrible. The spear discharged red lightning through my body. My shirt exploded. My heart stopped. My nerves burned. Every hair on my body abandoned the mission. Then regeneration slammed me back online. The surge flowed into my muscles. For 1 second, I felt stronger than ever before. So I grabbed the spear shaft, pulled myself farther onto it, climbed the weapon while still impaled, and headbutted the knight's helmet. The impact cracked my skull. The helmet cracked too. I headbutted it again. The white armor split. Red light poured out. The knight finally showed emotion. It recoiled. I whispered, "Found your subscription cancellation button." Then I hit it a 3rd time. Its helmet shattered. Inside was no head, just a floating red crystal. I reached into the armor and grabbed it. The crystal burned through my palm. My hand healed around it. The knight started screaming. I pulled. The crystal came free. Every other black knight on the bridge stopped moving. For 3 seconds, the city went silent. Then all of them turned toward me. Mira looked around at several hundred glowing helmets. Jae-min. Yes, I think they are mad. Yeah, you have a plan? I looked at the crystal in my hand. A notification appeared. Foreign core detected. Regeneration attempting assimilation. I smiled. Possibly a stupid one. Mira sighed. Those are the only kind you have. I crushed the crystal against my chest. Red energy entered my body. Everything went wrong. The red crystal did not politely dissolve into mana. It detonated inside me. Every vein in my body lit up. My skin split from my chest to my fingertips. Bones expanded, cracked, repaired, and cracked again. My heart started beating so fast I could hear individual valves begging for union representation. Then the red energy hit my regeneration. My ability responded like an offended landlord finding unauthorized construction. It began tearing the foreign mana apart. The crystal energy rebuilt itself. My regeneration destroyed it again. For 5 seconds, my body became a civil war. I dropped to one knee. The hundreds of black knights rushed me. Mira grabbed my jacket and tried to drag me away. Can you move? Define move. Run. No. Walk? No. Crawl? I can aggressively vibrate. That is useless. It is emotionally significant. The first knight reached us. Mira threw 3 knives. Each struck the helmet slit and exploded with blue mana, knocking it sideways. Another came from behind. Then another. She could not stop all of them. The red energy inside me surged again. A new notification appeared. Foreign core analysis complete. Mana circulation pathway detected. My regeneration reconstructed the damaged pathway. Something opened inside my chest. Not an organ, a channel. Until that moment, I had terrible mana output. I could barely reinforce a kitchen knife, but the knight's core had shown my body a structure it did not possess. My ability was not trying to copy the crystal. It was trying to repair me toward a pattern it suddenly considered missing. That distinction was probably important to science. I was busy being attacked by 400 haunted soup cans. Heat flooded my limbs. I stood. My strength stat flickered. S. Then S+. Then the display broke into symbols I could not read. A knight swung a sword at Mira. I stepped between them. The blade cut halfway through my forearm. I punched the knight with the same arm. Redline combat. Full release. Every muscle from my ankle to my shoulder contracted past its safe limit. My calf tore. My knee dislocated. My hip fractured. 3 abdominal muscles ripped. My shoulder nearly came out of the socket. All that destruction traveled forward as force. My fist hit the knight's chest. The armor collapsed inward. The knight launched backward through 7 others and vanished over the bridge railing. Mira stared at me. I stared at my fist. Then the knuckles regenerated. "Oh," I said. "What?" I think I just discovered violence. For the next 30 seconds, I became a public safety concern. I could not maintain the new mana circulation for long. It was unstable, painful, and apparently designed by an extinct civilization that thought blood vessels were optional suggestions. But regeneration let me brute force it. I used burst step into a shoulder charge. 3 knights went through a bus. I grabbed one by the ankle and used it as a weapon against another. The first knight's leg tore off. I stared at the detached limb, then at the crowd rushing me. I swung the leg like a club. Mira yelled, "That is disgusting. They started it. You are beating a knight with another knight's leg." Recycling. An archer fired a red spear of light through my face. For half a second, I had a clean tunnel from cheek to cheek. Then it closed. I spit out smoke. The archer lowered its bow. Even without a face, I could tell that thing was reconsidering its career. I burst-stepped across the bridge, landed beside it, and threw it into the river. A larger knight grabbed me from behind. I let it. Then I bent backward until my own spine snapped and headbutted it upside down. That was probably the moment nearby hunters stopped viewing me as an inspiring comeback story and started viewing me as a cursed video that should not be opened at work. The white armored commander's broken body suddenly moved. Its armor pulled itself together around the missing core. A red portal appeared in its chest. Something on the other side looked back. Not eyes. Hundreds of symbols rotating around a black sun. A voice came through every suit of armor at once. Undying core located. The knights stopped attacking. Then they knelt. Every single one. I stood in the center of the bridge holding a severed metal leg. The association hunters stared. Mira stared. The news helicopters definitely stared. I slowly lowered the leg. "This looks bad, you think?" Mira said. The voice spoke again. "Return the vessel." A pressure descended over the city. Windows shattered for blocks. Hunters collapsed to their knees. I felt my bones strain. My regeneration immediately repaired the damage, which meant I remained standing. That turned out to be a mistake, because now the thing behind the portal knew exactly which human was me. The black sun rotated. Defiance confirmed. The red gate above Soul began widening. Mira grabbed my sleeve. "Whatever you did, undo it." I crushed a crystal into my chest. "Uncrush it." That is not generally how crushing works. Regenerate backward. That is not how regeneration works either. She stared at me with the exhausted expression of someone who had realized her survival depended on a man whose medical strategy was basically, "Have we tried dying harder?" Then the gate released its next monster. A hand emerged. Just a hand. It was the size of a skyscraper. Black armor covered each finger. Red chains wrapped around the wrist. The palm opened above the river, and a massive symbol appeared in the center. Every kneeling knight dissolved into red light. The light flowed upward into the palm. The hand began descending toward the bridge. I did some quick tactical analysis. By tactical analysis, I mean I looked at the building-sized hand and thought, that is too much hand. The association ordered total evacuation. S-rank hunters attacked from every direction. Lightning struck the palm. Firestorms exploded against the fingers. Taesik appeared on the roof of a nearby building and launched a sword arc that split a cloud. Nothing stopped it. The hand kept coming. Mira pulled me toward the motorcycle. "We leave now." I did not move. The red symbol in the palm matched the one behind my status window. Circle. 3 claws. My regeneration was reacting to it. Not with pain, with hunger. That was extremely concerning. I looked at Mira. "How strong is the fastest launch spell you have ever seen?" "What?" "Something that could throw a person upward." She understood immediately. "No." "Come on, a revol." "No. I regenerate." That sentence has become a mental illness. She was not wrong, but there was no time. The hand was seconds from crushing the bridge and everyone still evacuating beneath it. I ran to the edge. A wind-type S-rank hunter named Park Ryu shouted for me to get back. I asked if he could launch me. He asked where. I pointed up. He looked at the giant descending hand. Then he looked at me. Then back at the hand. "You will die. Temporarily." That sentence apparently convinced him, which says troubling things about S-rank decision-making. He generated a cyclone beneath my feet. I activated burst step at the same time. My legs exploded, not metaphorically. Both calves ruptured from the acceleration. The cyclone launched me off the bridge like a human artillery shell. I shot upward through rain and broken glass. The giant hand filled my entire vision. I pulled back one fist. Redline combat. Full release. Then I added something Master O had specifically told me never to do. I forced the unstable red mana circulation backward through every muscle at once. My body began ripping itself apart before I even reached the target. My shoulders split. My ribs fractured outward. Blood streamed behind me. Regeneration rebuilt everything, while the technique destroyed it again. For one insane second, I existed at the exact intersection of healing and catastrophic stupidity. Then I punched the palm. The sky made a sound like a continent cracking. The giant hand stopped. My entire right arm vanished to the shoulder. The impact wave blew windows out across both sides of the river. A circular dent appeared in the palm. Then cracks spread from it. 1 crack became 10. 10 became 1,000. The enormous hand shattered. Chunks of black armor began falling from the sky. I also began falling from the sky. Small issue. My right arm regenerated before I reached the bridge. The rest of me was still obeying gravity with tremendous enthusiasm. Mira drove her motorcycle up a broken piece of guardrail, launched into the air, and somehow caught the back of my jacket as I fell. We both crashed through a billboard advertising life insurance. I wish I was making that up. We landed inside an empty convenience store. Shelves exploded around us. I regenerated a fractured pelvis while lying beneath a cardboard display of vitamin drinks. Mira sat up with blood on her forehead. She looked at me, then at the life insurance mascot smiling through the broken window, then back at me. If you make one joke, I will kill you. You cannot. She threw a canned coffee at my head. Fair. Above us, the red gate collapsed. The knights vanished. The city survived. For roughly 6 minutes, everyone thought we had won. Then my status window changed. A new line appeared under regeneration. Undying core synchronization. 1%. I had no idea what that meant. I knew I hated percentages attached to ancient cosmic organs. The association knew too, because before dawn, they surrounded the convenience store. Not police. Not regular hunters. The National Hunter Authority's Containment Division. Black vans, mana cannons, suppression barriers. 20 A-rank agents and 3 S-ranks. Their commander introduced himself as Director Kang Min-ho. He wore a gray suit with no armor and carried no weapon that told me he was either harmless or terrifying. Nobody with common sense walks into a room with me unarmed, unless they are very confident about something. He handed me a tablet. The screen showed footage from satellites. Red gates had opened for seconds over 6 other countries at the exact moment mine appeared. Japan, Brazil, Egypt, France, Canada, India. Every gate closed when I shattered the hand. Kang spoke calmly. The phenomenon responded to you. I noticed. We need you in protective custody. That phrase has never ended with someone getting to keep their own toothbrush. He did not smile. Mira crossed her arms. What happens if he refuses? Kang looked at the containment agents, then at me. That depends on whether he believes 27 hunters can restrain him. I looked outside. 27. 3 S-ranks. Several anti-regeneration weapons had already been deployed. Black vein curse technology. That meant somebody inside the government had access to Duhuan's equipment. Interesting. I raised both hands. I will come peacefully. Mira turned so fast I heard her neck click. What? Kang looked equally suspicious. I smiled. Free ride. They put me inside a suppression vehicle beneath 14 layered barriers. Mira was not allowed to come. I watched her disappear behind us as the convoy entered an underground tunnel. Then I counted turns. Left, right, down, down again. The association's main headquarters was north of the river. We were heading south. After 20 minutes, the convoy stopped inside a facility that did not exist on public maps. The walls were lined with white stone instead of concrete. The same white stone from the Heartgate ruins. Director Kang stepped out. I followed. No one explained anything. That was fine. I had learned that when powerful organizations refuse to answer questions, the architecture usually does it for them. They led me through 3 sealed doors into a laboratory. There were tanks along the walls. Inside the tanks were body parts, arms, eyes, organs. Some human, some definitely not. One tank held an entire spine wrapped in red crystal. A label beneath it read, Regenerative Specimen 7. I stopped walking. Director Kang stopped too. What is this? I asked. Research. Bad answer. He sighed. Before your awakening, there were 6 known humans with regeneration abilities above A rank. I looked at the tanks. Yes. That one word changed the room. My jaw tightened. Kang turned toward me. None possessed your level of recovery. Their abilities failed after repeated extraction. Extraction. We were trying to understand the gate phenomenon. You cut them apart to prevent something worse. There it was. The sentence every monster uses when it owns a conference room. I felt something in me go cold. Kang continued. The heart gates are not dungeons. They are locks. Regeneration abilities are fragments of the mechanism. You are the first complete key we have ever seen. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because my entire life had apparently become a cosmic locksmith scam. Then why did you bring me here? To determine whether you can open the central lock safely. And if I say no? Kang looked at the tanks. You already know. The containment barriers activated. Pressure slammed into me. Black chains wrapped around my arms and legs. The same curse energy Duhuan used. My regeneration slowed. An S-rank agent stepped behind me and drove a needle into my neck. The drug would have knocked out an elephant. I know because the label literally said megafauna tranquilizer. My vision blurred. for 3 seconds. Then my liver regenerated the chemical damage. I looked at the agent. He looked at the empty syringe. I said, that dose could sedate a rhino. My liver just called it sparkling water. He reached for another needle. I headbutted him. The room exploded into motion. The chains tightened. I pulled. My shoulders dislocated. Regenerated. Pulled again. The anchor bolts bent. 2 A ranks hit me with gravity magic. My femurs cracked. I stayed upright. An S-rank spear user stabbed me through the back. I grabbed the spearhead where it emerged from my chest and kept walking forward. The agent holding it got dragged with me. Director Kang did not move. Your resistance is making this harder. Your kidnapping is making breakfast awkward. A suppression cannon fired. The blast erased my left side. For a fraction of a second, I saw my own ribs from an angle nobody should ever see their own ribs. Then flesh regrew. I kept walking. Another cannon fired. I regenerated. A third. Regenerated. Warning sirens filled the lab. My mana dropped sharply. That was the weakness. Regeneration was absurd, but not free. Massive damage burned energy. Too much, too fast, and eventually I would empty the tank. Kang knew it. The cannons were not trying to kill me. They were trying to exhaust me. So I changed the equation. Instead of resisting the gravity field, I let it crush me. My body flattened to the floor. The spear came loose. The agents assumed I had collapsed. Then I used burst step horizontally. My legs regenerated and detonated with force against the ground. I shot under the cannon line, grabbed one weapon by the barrel, and swung the entire machine into the second cannon. Both exploded. I ran through the smoke. An A-rank tried to tackle me. I allowed him to. Then I continued running with him attached. We went through a glass wall together. His armor shattered. My face shattered. Mine came back first. I threw him into a storage cabinet. The third S-rank finally moved. She had been standing near Director Kang with a thin chain wrapped around one wrist. She flicked it. The chain extended across the entire room and cut my right leg off at the knee. I dropped. Before the leg hit the floor, another cut removed my left arm, then my right, then the other leg. I landed on my back with no limbs. The S-rank woman looked down at me. Regenerate now. So I did. 4 limbs erupted back at once. Her expression changed. I kicked upward before she could retreat. My heel hit her chin. She flew into the ceiling. I stood. My discarded limbs were still lying around me. One of the A-rank agents looked at them, then at me, then at them again. I pointed down. Do not make this weird, he whispered. There are 5 of your hands in this room. Then I can finally clap for your terrible life choices. The chain user recovered instantly and attacked again. This time I watched the weapon. Its cutting power came from vibration. Millions of tiny mana pulses along the chain edge. A normal weapon would break trying to block it. I did not have a normal weapon. I had bones. I wrapped the chain around my forearm. It cut to the bone. Then my flesh regenerated over it. The chain became trapped inside my arm. The S-rank woman pulled. I pulled harder. She flew toward me. I punched her in the stomach with a redline strike. She crossed the laboratory and disappeared through 2 doors. Director Kang finally took off his jacket. Underneath, his arms were covered in the circle and claw symbol. I stopped. So did he. His skin began changing. Red crystal grew from his veins. You think we studied regeneration from the outside? He asked. His body expanded. Muscle packed over bone. Crystal armor formed along his shoulders. His eyes turned red. I was specimen 1. Then he punched me through the laboratory. I went through a tank, a steel partition, a hallway wall, and something that may have been an employee restroom. I landed in a sink. For half a second, I was too shocked to move. Then I looked down. There was a hand dryer beside my head. It turned on automatically. I had just been punched through 3 reinforced walls by a government mutant, and this little machine was politely drying my ear. Outstanding, I muttered. At least one department here has standards. Kang walked through the hole after me. His wounds healed. Not as fast as mine, but fast. Very fast. He had regeneration too, and unlike me, he had decades of combat experience. He hit me again. I blocked. My forearms broke. He swept my legs. I regenerated before hitting the ground, twisted, and kicked him in the ribs. His ribs cracked, then repaired. We both froze for a fraction of a second. This was new. I had never fought someone who could play my game. Kang smiled. Now you understand. I smiled back. No. Now I finally get to stop being polite. We destroyed the facility. There is no elegant way to describe it. 2 regenerating idiots fighting in a secret underground laboratory is less martial arts and more aggressive urban renewal. He drove my head through a control panel. I tore a steel door off its track and hit him with it. He broke my arm. I broke it farther to slip his hold, regenerated, and elbowed him in the throat. He slammed me into the floor. I stepped from a kneeling position and launched us both through the ceiling. We landed in another laboratory. This one had no tanks. It had a hole. A perfectly circular shaft descended into darkness. Ancient white stone covered the walls. The symbol pulsed beneath our feet. Kang stopped fighting. He looked genuinely afraid. You opened it. I did what? The floor split. Red light rose from below. My status window flashed. Undying core synchronization. 2%, then 3%, then 5%. Kang grabbed my throat. Stop regenerating. I stared at him. That may have been the stupidest order anyone had ever given me. And I once had a guild leader tell me to tank a goblin axe with a broken trash can lid. I am not doing it manually. The shaft erupted. A column of red light swallowed us. The facility vanished. For one impossible second, I felt my body come apart atom by atom. My regeneration chased the destruction. Every cell that disappeared came back somewhere else. Then gravity returned. I hit stone. Hard. I opened my eyes. I was no longer beneath soul. Above me was a red sky filled with enormous floating skeletons. Not human skeletons. Dragons. Giants. Creatures with too many wings. All of them hung frozen in the air like trophies. The ground stretched black to the horizon. Thousands of stone doors stood upright across the landscape, with no walls around them. Each door had a name carved into it. Some were human names. Some were symbols. Some moved when I looked away. Director Kang lay 50 meters from me. Half his body was missing. He regenerated slowly. I stood first. A message appeared in the air. Heart Archive entered. Living key detected. Archive Administrator awakening. I looked at Kang. He looked at me. For once, neither of us had a sarcastic comment. Then one of the floating skeletons moved. A dragon's skull the size of a stadium turned in the sky. Red fire appeared inside its empty eye sockets. Kang whispered, "Do not let it see you." Too late. The skull opened its mouth. A beam of red light hit the ground. The landscape disappeared. I disappeared with it. Then I regenerated. Not from a body. There was no body left. I came back from a single drop of blood that had landed behind a stone door. Bone formed around nothing. Organs unfolded. Muscle wrapped my frame. Skin sealed last. I collapsed naked behind the door, coughing smoke. A new notification appeared. Total body loss survived. Regeneration classification updated. SSS rank limit unresolved. I stared at the words. My hands shook. Not from pain. From the realization that I had just been erased and returned anyway. That should have made me feel invincible. Instead, it terrified me. Because something had chosen this ability for a reason. And whatever lived here had expected me to survive that attack. I heard footsteps. Kang stumbled around the stone door, still regenerating one arm. He stopped when he saw me. "You came back from that?" Apparently, he looked behind me at the crater stretching for kilometers. Then down at my complete lack of clothing. I pointed at him. "Say one thing, and I will beat you to death with my own regenerated femur." He took off his ruined jacket and threw it at me. It covered almost nothing. Perfect. I had survived molecular annihilation only to get humbled by textile supply. Before either of us could decide whether we were still enemies, a bell rang across the Heart Archive. Every stone door opened at once. Things began walking out. Hunters, monsters, kings, creatures from species I had never seen. Some wore ancient armor. Some wore modern clothes. Some looked freshly dead. Others looked like they had been waiting for thousands of years. Every one of them had the same red symbol somewhere on their body. Circle. 3 claws. The nearest figure was a woman in broken golden armor carrying half a spear. She looked at me. Her eyes widened. Then she dropped to one knee. Around us, others did the same. Hundreds. Thousands. Kang went pale. The golden-armored woman bowed her head. "At last," she said, "the 7th immortal has returned." I looked behind me. Because denial is free. Nobody there. I pointed at my chest. "You mean me?" She raised her head. No, that was somehow worse. Her gaze shifted past me. I turned. At the far end of the black plain stood one door that had not opened. It was taller than a skyscraper. Chains wrapped around it from every direction. The name carved across its surface was in a language I had never learned, but I understood it anyway. Jae-min. My name. A second me was sealed behind that door. Then something knocked from the other side. Once. The entire Heart Archive shook. Twice. The floating skeleton screamed. 3 times. A crack appeared down the center of the door. My status window flashed violently. Undying core synchronization. 12%. Then a voice came from behind the chains. My voice. Calm. Amused. Ancient. "You took long enough." I stared at the door while every immortal around me backed away. Director Kang whispered, "What are you?" I could have told him I was an F-rank porter. I could have told him I was a special defense hunter. I could have told him I was a guy who got abandoned with half a shield and became too stubborn to stay dead. But the chains were breaking. The red sky was opening. And somewhere back on Earth, every gate on the planet had just begun to pulse in the same rhythm as my heartbeat. So I cracked my neck, watched the fracture heal, and smiled at the thing wearing my name. "I was about to ask you the same damn question.